Hi.
Hello there. How's it going today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. My name's Ben. It's very nice to meet you in this virtual space. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us today.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much. This is, whole new world.
Yeah,
COVID, IG.
exactly. It's the way we do it. It's the way we do it. And you're kind of in the midst of a press day for season six. Is that right?
Yes, you are my last one. I have been back to back to back to back since 10 a.m. And it's
Wow.
about 1 p.m. here
Yeah.
now, but
Yeah.
it's great. It's great. It's exciting to see how enthusiastic everyone is for the last season. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely something great to be chatting about for the day. And I was looking into it, and it's been a whopping 86 episodes that you've been with this character. Just for starters, what's been the most gratifying part of this experience over the years about being part of the Lucifer family?
Oh my gosh. I think just getting to 6 years, to be honest.
Yeah.
When I think about how I started on the show, which we can get into for sure, to the cancellation, to now ending on, the biggest streaming platform in the world.
Hmm.
Like it's kind of this incredible journey that not very many people get to have as actors, but I think just being able to see her through to the end, in a way that I hope the audience is very happy with, is probably like my greatest accomplishment with her for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that as for everyone involved in the show, that initial cancellation definitely cut it short. We wanted to tie some loose ends. We wanted closure. So I feel like you're going out on a high note with this final installment. You mentioned your initial involvement with the series. How is it that you first got brought into the fold for this? I know you'd been acting for some years prior to entering this audition room, but what was that whole process like, and what excited you about this world?
So I auditioned like every actor does, pilot season. Well, most of us, I should say, pilot season. And, I was on that grind, on that hamster wheel of like auditions throughout the week. And I actually I tested for 3 different shows in 1 week, and
Mm,
Lucifer was one of them. They decided to take me to the network. So the studio was happy and they wanted to put me in front of the network. And then I had 2 other auditions, one of which was for a lead for Limitless, actually, the TV show Limitless that
mm,
Jennifer Carpenter ended up getting. And I, uh, I wasn't sure what was happening. And of course, it's a lead, versus number 4 on the call sheet. And I thought my father has hemochromatosis, which is something that is explored in the Limitless show. And I guess it resonated with me. So we were really like, we needed Lucifer to make a decision essentially with the casting.
mhm.
And they decided to let me go, release me from my test contract. I went and I tested with Limitless. I didn't get that either. And I was like, oh my God, this is the worst week ever. Just one of those
Yeah,
real actor moments, where you're like, oh.
yeah.
And then I got another test deal. And my heart wasn't in it, and it wasn't really the show that I wanted to do. But my husband was like, you have to go, you have to do it, you got to like pick yourself up, and then I didn't get that either. So in like I went
Great.
from like super high 3 tests
Yeah,
to like no show. And it really was just like, wow, so okay, this is like the end of my pilot season. And I was on a photo shoot and I got a call from my agent and they said, so crazy thing, they want to reinstate your deal on Lucifer and you are going to be Mazikeen. And I was like, what? I was so excited, because I really did love the character when I read it.
hmm,
When I looked at the graphic novel, she was like, she had, yeah, she was tough and she was this warrior woman, but um, she seemed so multi-layered and faceted. And I really dig the relationship between her and Lucifer.
hmm.
One of the rare characters who could like actually you know, put him in his place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so, so I was really thrilled to one, have a job and two, get to bring her to life. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so funny the way that those journeys happen in the early days. I mean, you had three tests. It felt like you had all this opportunity in front of you, then it's stripped away.
Totally.
It's not a unique experience to the actors out there. How do you learn to kind of roll with the punches and grow a thick skin during periods of rejection like that?
I think it's really important to remember that Hollywood is not a meritocracy, you know?
Hmm.
And what's very important for you is, yes, that thick skin, that you're going to hear more no's than you will yes. And there's the rare few who, you know, get one gig and then it's like, boom. But even then, that's your perception of it
Hmm.
because you don't know what led them to that one gig, you know? And you may never know. But I think remembering that surrounding yourself with people who understand your vision, like my team is so incredibly important to me.
Hmm.
Having the right manager, having the right agent, having a lawyer that was like the first member I brought onto my team
Hmm.
when I
Hmm.
landed in LA, because I figured out very quickly that this is a very litigious country and
Yeah.
you better lawyer up, girl, you know, just to make sure that you're protected, right?
Hmm.
Because in
Hmm.
New Zealand, we don't have unions. So,
Hmm.
you know, having those protections and having a union and a lawyer behind you to speak on your behalf was really important. But I just never, I never believed that um, I wouldn't get the show or I don't know how to explain it. I had left my family and moved here by myself, and um, you know, there was no plan B for me.
Right.
So it was plan A was you work and you work in Hollywood, and plan B was you work and you work in Hollywood.
Right.
I didn't, and I think a big part of it too, like especially for, you know, immigrant actors, is like you really do have to immerse yourself in the culture here and spend some time here, you know,
Hmm.
to fully understand how things work. I think it's again, it's the rare few who come over like one pilot season, book something, and then it's like done.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, I think you really have to understand how things work, the pace at which things work too. My first audition in LA was horrible, horrible.
Yeah, we all have those
I,
stories.
oh
Yeah.
my God, it was terrible. Well, in New Zealand, we don't work with sides because we get time.
Mm,
If
mhm,
we
mhm.
have 10 pages of dialogue, no one's hitting us up at like 11 at night and being like, okay, please have this in by 9 a.m. Like that
Right.
just doesn't happen. So I was not used to that pace. And I remember going into an audition and I was fumbling the papers. I was so nervous. Like I used to actually have this nervous tick where I would shiver, like my lip would quiver and like
Uh-huh.
my leg would shake and I'd physically have to just hit my leg to stop
Yeah.
it.
Not great in the
Uh,
audition room.
not great in the waiting room, not,
Yeah.
you know, I it's like also just the scope of it, like auditions, there were like 40 versions of you. The industry's obviously much smaller in New Zealand. And so
Hmm.
I remember going into the room, fumbling papers, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, we just don't work with size. And, you know, it was like a group of 10 producers, mostly men. And one of them looked at me and he said, well, you're not in New Zealand now. Thank you very much. And I was like,
Yeah.
and, but I'm so grateful to him because I walked back. I didn't cry. I walked back and I said, yeah, there's this Kiwi saying, like, you're pissing in the grass with the big boys now. You know, you gotta
Mm,
like
mhm.
armor up and like this is, you know, this is Hollywood. So it was a wonderful lesson. And
Yeah.
as harsh as it was in the moment when I tell people that story, I'm really am grateful to him for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we all need a rude awakening sometimes.
Totally.
Yeah. Now, I love hearing you speak about the early days of this character, just in terms of on the page, she's a warrior. She's also the one person who can put Lucifer in his place. What's your process like for script analysis in that way and finding your way into a character? Do you look for those tiny hooks in the beginning to kind of know what motivates this person, what really grounds them to reality, even in supernatural circumstances like this. I'd love to hear just a bit about how you would describe your process, really.
Yeah, I think a lot about my character, or the way I approach it is informed by how other characters relate to her. So I really look
Hmm.
at like what other characters are doing, how they're reacting, to Maze, in scripts. And it's really finding out like what do I want out of this whole season? Like what's my super objective? So if you look at season one, it was like getting back to Earth. I
Hmm.
mean, getting back to hell. I'm sorry. And then in season two, after realizing, okay, well, we're stuck here. Now it's like, how do I make Earth home?
Hmm.
And then in season three, it's like, okay, now I've made Earth home, but now I'm dealing with all these feelings and emotions. So like, okay, great, let's explore humanity and relationships.
Hmm.
And then in season four, it's like, okay, so now I found this person that I like, but I don't quite know how to figure it out. So it's like really
Hmm.
finding what that super objective is and then working backwards from there. So looking at episode to episode. And the thing about it is I'm the gatekeeper of one character,
Right.
and so I know her inside and out. And sometimes, writers will write. Writers have like an easier connection to certain other characters than they do to some. Um, and that's okay. I think that's as an actor where you have to, with kindness and respect, obviously approach, it from a collaborative perspective when things bump for you.
Hmm.
So I really went in. I go into it identifying what that objective is, and where I'm at with these relationships. And I often will refer to scripts from like the previous season just to make sure I'm tracking things,
Hmm.
and not missing anything. And that has served me really well on our show. It's sometimes really hard because, TV moves so quickly. It feels like we get more space to breathe on Netflix because it is, a streamer instead of a network show where you're
Hmm.
cutting to commercial very quickly, and sometimes you're like, oh, I just wish we had like a moment to pause.
Hmm.
um so it feels a little bit, at least for me, I felt like I got to really take my time a little bit with some of my scenes now that since we moved to Netflix. But I really do look at how other characters are relating to her,
Yeah.
to inform me a lot about like what her point of view is.
Yeah, yeah, that's so important. You learn as much from what other people say about them, even when you're not in the scene, than what you say yourself.
And that's
Um,
a very human quality when you think
yeah.
about it. It's like, there are certain people who can walk into a room and you can see a room's reaction to it, whether it's they're revered or they're like, ooh, so and so is here. So
Right.
I think that is a very human thing,
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Well, I gotta ask now, just going into this final stretch, what was your super objective for these final episodes? What were you kind of mapping out along the way?
I don't know how much I can say because I don't want to
Fair.
give a story away, but I think, I without saying too much, was for her to find like acceptance
Hmm.
and peace, for the choices that she made for her,
Hmm.
uh, and not necessarily considering other people. Because I think as a character, she's always been beholden to like Lucifer or these friendships, and putting herself first, um, is something that I don't think she's done enough of in
Hmm.
situations. And I think perhaps that was her lesson to learn. And also to cut some of those chains, that tethered her to like her mother's experience, or like her ideas of, what a demon is,
Hmm. Hmm.
that she's not just a puppet sort of playing her part, that she is someone who is deserving of love and a soul and relationships. And she's allowed to make mistakes, and I think that's one of her endearing qualities, is that she does fall flat on her face
Hmm.
like we all do, and then picks herself up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think at the end of it, she finds the peace that she wanted for her without any influence,
Yeah.
from someone else. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all we can ask for. And I think that's a great teaser for what's to come with the September 10th premiere. And a great way to leave this conversation. That's all I have for you today. And really excited to see how it all shakes out. Excited to see what you do next. Thanks again for sharing your time with us today.
Thanks so much. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice meeting you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.